Now I just need to learn how to animate this so it becomes a wireframe. Hi folks, welcome to Glitter Void Gamecraft. My name is Eric, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be going through some of the techniques and ideas and motivations and whatnot in the building of this piece, which is a little diorama I built for an Instagram terrain building competition. So this was a terrain building competition hosted by Dark Elf Girl on Instagram. I'll put some links down in the description to all of that. On the first of the month, the theme was dropped, which was the neon dimension. It was basically like a writing prompt, and literally anything could be done with it. Paint a mini, build something. The only real constraint that we were given is it couldn't be started before the first, and it had to be less than 10 inches on any one side. If you want to go and watch what I'm calling the short film of the actual construction process to kind of give you some context, I'll go ahead and link that right around here. But for now, let's just dive in and take a look. Here we have it, the diorama. So the basic sort of design idea is, I felt like pretty much anyone going into this is gonna just Google vaporwave and then do something that sort of looked like this. So my different take on the whole thing was, well, what if we saw the division between the neon dimension and then the carbon dimension? The materials used here are not that interesting. The bottom is made out of cardboard, as are the walls. Most of this is XPS foam or foam core board. Got some cardstock bits filled with hot glue, and of course acrylic paint, including some neon ones. So the first thing I kind of did is I was thinking sort of mirror dimension, and so I started making things that appeared in both. So obviously there's rock here, there's the tree here. I made two different trees, but it started to kind of run out of space. And so that's where I kind of got the idea to do the tree stump right here. I did pretty much the carbon side first. I knew because of the ground cover and the various types of flocking that this was going to be the messy side, so I didn't want to get all done with this and then I go start putting down and then sand gets over here and sticks to everything. Of course, the neon is generally all sort of basic object source lighting theory, I guess. You've got the core of the white light that implies that it's very bright, and then the halo of color that is sort of the ambient glow that it casts on various things. Probably the hardest thing about this whole project was getting a feel for the way these neon paints work. I mean, these are crappy paints and they cover very poorly. It takes so many layers. I went over some of these lines probably 5 or 6 times to get, especially on the black. I had some success in certain places of going over white with the paints. That's always just felt messy to me. So I mostly just did the halo color first and then came in with a detail brush and did the fine white lines. Of course, some of these things are a lot easier because they've got sharp edges, and some of them, like these, are much harder. For the ground here, I tried doing something where I had like a ruler. It was hard to make everything even, and I would get done with one and then the line would be off center of the color, so I had to add some more of the color, but then I would get on top of the line, so then I'm trying to retrace over that, and it just kind of became this much harder than I expected cycle. And so I did like 1.5 of these long lines from the pink perspective lines with a ruler, and the rest I ended up just freehanding. It ended up being easier to just keep a straight line, not thinking about it as the entire length, but it's not too hard to make a straight line from, can we see this? It's much easier to just go from here to here and keep the white line in the center of the halo of color than it is to think about it of the entire length of everything. Like the tree, the sunset back here went through many iterations before I got something that worked. I tried, do I have it? Yes, I do. I tried this for a while. It's a hard plastic stencil that I cut out with great difficulty. And actually, you know what? That ends up not looking so bad, but still messier than I wanted, and it had to be taped down because I tried it on a couple things and I can't get the plastic to stay down. So what I ended up doing, are they out here still? What did I do with them? So what I ended up doing is getting these, they're like labels for running through a printer. So they're basically giant stickers. I traced out the lines the way I wanted using a compass and rulers and all of that, and then just sliced it into thin lines that also blocked off the curved edges here. Slapped it on the surface and then painted it and pulled it up afterwards. The only problem with that is those labels aren't meant to come off. So I tried to not put it down too much, which ended up backfiring, and there was lots of spill over here. But again, it ended up being much easier than I expected to just tidy that up with some dark colors. The gradient back here being vague enough that it didn't mess anything up. The portal itself, the ring here, is actually a single piece of XPS insulation foam. I cut it out in a giant circle, pretty much looking like this side was, and then I just kind of split it down the middle and then could come in from each side and shave off bits. Didn't quite get a symmetrical pattern of stones because I didn't think there was going to be one, but then when I did create the more techno looking side over here, it ended up being completely symmetrical, and I couldn't make it over here, so everything's a little bit off center. The one thing that will perhaps sound the most like I'm lying is this painting back here is only the second time I've ever used acrylic paint to just paint a painting. The only other one was a painting online subscription class I took with my partner, and it used like 4 colors, but I was planning on just going to YouTube and look up some old episodes of Bob Ross, but he uses oil paints, and I don't know the difference well enough to know if those techniques really transfer, so I just searched for beginner mountain acrylics, and you'll find the videos that I use there. But yeah, it took me maybe an hour to do with stopping and starting, and yeah, it's not perfect, but I like the contrast and also the fact that both sides has a dominating feature, so it's not just a big old skybox. Weirdly, the last thing that I pretty much decided on was how to do this, the barrier between the two worlds, the neon and the carbon. My imagination for the fiction of this world is that these are actually coming together because because the portal's here or it's that way, so this is where they built the portal. The distance between the worlds gets the smallest right here, therefore, or because of portal. So here we have, and then it just expands outwards from here. Pretty much the only thing that I haven't done here that I want to is to actually seal this with anything, because I was afraid after spending way too long doing the various claddings, because boy, it was nerve-wracking working with hot glue next to all of this finished product. But I was afraid that that might dampen the cladding itself and make it warp and look a little bit weird that I've had happen on some of my upcoming projects. So I wanted to avoid that as much as possible. But yeah, there you have it. Well, thank you for coming along on this journey to the neon dimension with me. If you liked the video, consider giving it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you thought about this. If any of this was particularly inspiring, consider subscribing to the channel or share the video around with your friends. I promise they won't think you're any weirder than the guy who makes short films about the terrain he builds. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.